It's time for our Tuesday pecking order here, where we like to rank things on the show. And with training camp on the horizon, in fact, we are a week away, less than a week away from Vikings rookies reporting to Egan for training camp. We're going to tap into the mind, the great Vikings mind of Judd Zulgad here. Longtime lead Vikings beat writer at the Star Tribune, 1500ESPN.com.
Those were the days.
Judd's 10 favorite Vikings training camp memories. The floor is yours.
All right, so I will start at 10. I will work my way up. I have covered, I did the math last night. This is very frightening. 17 training camps dating back to the 2005 season.
Wow.
Just to be clear, I'm going to skip the Zimmer Cousins theatrics last year, just because we've talked about it 1,000 times. I'm just bored with it. Okay.
I don't know that would make a list of my favorite training camp memories.
Well, I'm just saying
chirping at each other over COVID protocol.
Memorable. So like these are, you know, I know this is going to shock you, but keep in mind, sports dad's favorite things might be a bit on the, how can I put this nicely, negative side at times. Okay. So like I'm going to bring up some negative buried training camp memories here as well.
I feel like this list was presented differently to Declan and I, okay? If you're just going to crap on the Vikings for 10 things here, maybe we should frame the list differently to the audience.
I'm not going to crap on them. It is my 10. I sent you a note last night. Judd Zulgad, Sports Dad's 10 favorite, okay? That doesn't mean that they're uplifting. That doesn't mean they're positive. That means they are my 10 favorite things. Some are positive.
Okay, well, this list is presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. And Federated's all about providing a positive influence in the world here, okay? Unlike what Judd's about to do. But coming up here, also toward the end of the month, is the annual Federated Challenge, which, along with just all of the great partners that raise money, too. $44 million raised for Big Brothers Big Sisters since 2005. And Big Brothers Big Sisters is all about providing children facing adversity with strong and enduring, professionally supported mentoring relationships that can change their lives for the better. There are 5,000 children currently in the state of Minnesota that are being helped by a big of some kind. If you want to be a big yourself or find out more about how you can help, go to federatedchallenge.org. That's federatedchallenge.org. All right, pecking order. Commence.
All right, here I go, and hopefully my connection continues to work because I feel like I'm freezing on my end. I don't know.
You are a little glitchy here, so we're gonna grind through it for the first couple and see what happens.
All right, let's see what happens here. Let's test run this thing, starting at number 10 on Judd's 10 favorite training camp memories. All right, number 10.
Declan, what's the % chance this train wrecks?
65.
Well, wait.
65
I'm gonna go 80.
From a glitchy standpoint, or did you guys hate my list?
Any number of different things.
This is unfair.
Yes.
This is unfair. This is completely unfair. All right, Xfinity, get your act together. There, fix your problems. All right, number 10 on my list. Kyle Sloter. Stinking it up in practices and then having unbelievable preseason games is the poster child for Vikings training camp QBs, okay? Like, I could run through all of the QBs. Oh, my God, Tyler Thigpen. How could the Chiefs take him? We will never have a joint practice again because they saw Tyler Thigpen. But Kyle Sloter is because everyone would watch him in training camp practices and be like, he's not any good. And then he would be unbelievable in games. And the fan base would be like, how can you not play Kyle Sloter? You got to keep him. He should be your backup quarterback. And now he should start. So Kyle Sloter at number 10 is my poster child for Vikings backup quarterbacks and the annual training camp. This guy's got to play. No, actually, he doesn't.
You know, there's like a separate sub-pecking order here, too, of the things that divided the Vikings fan base the most, and Kirk Cousins is number one, at least in terms of things I can remember.
Absolutely.
But Kyle Sloter might be in the top 3. People had takes for days on Kyle Sloter, man.
For certain people, it was.
Dude,
like, I feel like we didn't get caught up in it as bad, but like Collar was in that storm constantly. It felt like
he was fighting with people on social media for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. There's like 20 or 25 truly relevant quality starting quarterbacks in the world. So there's always like 6 or 7 teams desperate to find one. And Sloter was given a chance through waivers, I think 2 or 3 different times in his career or more. And you're telling me that desperate teams looking for great backups or starting options just overlooked him? So it was always obvious to me, he's having I don't know, he plays well against the other team's vanilla defense and backups. But a lot of people saw something different with him.
Yep. And he has a Pro
it was
Bowl
very divisive.
USFL QB as well.
Do they call it the Pro Bowl? The USFL Pro Bowl?
He's an all-star. I don't know what they call it. All right, number 9 is a positive on my list. And it goes back to 2014 training camp in Mankato, something that Phil and I and a bunch of folks watched at that time. And that is the amount of time, and I will always go back to this because I think it was significant to his development into a Pro Bowl player. First-year coach Mike Zimmer spending what felt like a long time coaching up cornerback Xavier Rhodes.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the most memorable things. I always felt like Zim was around Rhodes, and look, it worked. Like, he became, in his prime, a shutdown corner. I think the relationship eventually went by the wayside, but that being said, Zimmer showed, I think, in his first year, his true defensive prowess, really, with that move to turn Rhodes from what was probably a really good player into, for a while, what felt like a star player.
Yeah. If only Zimmer could have given that much attention to, I don't know, the quarterback position once in a while.
Declan, I want the record to reflect Phil Mackey took a very positive memory of mine and went negative.
My favorite Judd Xavier Rhodes moment was when, during an episode of Cluster Fun, RIP on SKOR North, Judd mimicked Xavier Rhodes galloping like a horse trying to do a coverage, and I think the video still surfaced out there. I'll see if I can find it, maybe show it for like old tweets or old moves exposed. It's when he got
hurt, because he got hurt every game and would start galloping.
But you had to get out of your chair to mimic a gimpy Xavier Rhodes to throw salt on the wound.
He pulled a few Paul Pierces, right, where he looked like, man, looks like a sniper got him somewhere. ACL, is that both Achilles torn? Oh, no, he's back 1 play later.
He's never coming back.
But it was, I think Zimmer rolling his sleeves up in the early portion of his coaching tenure and working with Xavier Rhodes. I think that directly led then 3 years later to that 2017 defense being one of the best in Vikings history because Xavier Rhodes was Rhodes closed, baby. Lockdown.
Exactly right. All right, 8 on my list of Judd's top 10 training camp Vikings memories as we get start for report date on Sunday for the rookies and Tuesday for the rest of the team. Number 8. This goes back to not being positive. Sidney Rice being put on the PUP list because of a hip injury in training camp 2010. It turns out that he had the opportunity to have surgery after the 2009 conference championship game against the Saints. Basically said, if you don't give me a new contract, I ain't getting the procedure done. Therefore, and this was when the snowball started to go downhill on 2010, when we showed up unbeknownst to us completely, and Rice was out. He then, a few days after camp began in August, had the surgery and was never the same. And to this day, I have never confirmed that Brett Favre completely knew when he agreed to come back with his teammates to play in 2010. I have never officially confirmed that Favre knew about Rice's condition, because at the time he basically claimed he didn't. So what started the snowball on the season of hell in 2010 going down that hill, as far as I can recall, was that moment in the hot Mankato summer when Sidney Rice was put on the PUP list.
Sidney Rice has one of the weirdest careers in recent NFL history. He played 7 years in the NFL. Here are his catch totals. And I'm gonna skip 2009 and leave it for the end here.
Okay.
31, 15, 17, 32, 50, 15, 83. Here are his yardage totals. 396, 141, 280, 484, 748, 231, 1,312.
Yeah.
The conversation was really easy, right? And the Vikings kind of did this. They're like, you're playing hardball? Dude, okay, unless we can bottle the 2019 version of Brett Favre every year the rest of your career. Guy, in 2008, you played 13 games and had 15 catches, and then Brett Favre came along and made your career, okay? Calm down on the extortion here, holding surgery over our heads. One of the rare instances I will agree with a team over a player when it comes to contracts.
And actually, for comparison's sake, look up the career stats of Javon Walker of the Packers, because I'm willing to bet they are about the exact same, because Brett Favre made both Rice and Walker star players, it felt like, for a season.
Yep, Javon Walker had 2 really good seasons, but one with the Packers. So he goes 300 yards, 700 yards, 1,400 yards, and 12 touchdowns.
He was unbelievable.
And then he got hurt, right, the next year. Maybe tore his knee or something, because he only played 1 game the next year.
He tore his knee up.
Then he went to Denver in 2006. That might have been a Jay Cutler. Maybe that was before Cutler. But he went for 1,000 yards in Denver, and then that was kind of
I
it.
think it was Jay Cutler.
James Jones like led the league in receiving touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers, and went to Oakland and was just terrible. Like not terrible, but like wasn't effective at all.
What if Devontae Adams is just a sort of a mid receiver, and we've all been propping him up?
I don't think that's the case,
he's a machine. Don't get me wrong. I'm just kidding.
The thoughts crossed my mind. Like, man, he's not as good as we thought he was. I wonder why that is.
Amazing. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Number 7. Yeah.
Number 7. Bryant McKinney showing up in training camp in 2011 in such bad shape, and here's what makes it memorable. With such high cholesterol that the Vikings decided to release him. They were, I'm going to tell you right now, they were legitimately afraid if they made him practice in the heat, he might drop. Dude. And he came in so fat and in such bad shape that they're basically like, you know what? We can't tolerate this. And released him.
What year was that again?
11. It was Frazier's first full season.
Okay,
and he signed with Baltimore shortly thereafter.
I think it was that summer right before training camp. Because I live downtown Minneapolis, and I went with a couple friends over to, is 7 still open? That steak and sushi place?
Yes, that's temporarily closed right now due to some problems they had earlier this spring and summer. But
I
it's
wonder
still
what that is.
There.
Yeah. So I once in a while go to the rooftop on a nice summer day at 7 and grab a glass of wine and some steak or whatever. And so I'm sitting there with a couple friends, and Bryant McKinney comes walking up the steps with 9 women.
Big Mac.
And they had some VIP corner, but I'm like, dude, this is how you live the life in the NFL, right? Just call, I don't know, 9 of your favorite gorgeous women, tell them to put some evening gowns on, and it's just you and them hanging out on the rooftop at 7 downtown Minneapolis. God bless Bryant McKinney.
Cholesterol off the charts, though. That's my favorite. You're a pro athlete. I don't know. I was having fun.
Yeah, sorry, my LDL is 375.
Exactly. You might die on the field. We're not going to have you practice. All right, number 6. 2006 opening day of training camp. Brad Childress' first season, in which it poured. And coming off the Tice thing where it was seen as, the Vikings the players control everything. The players are in charge. The Randy ratio, everything is done for the players post Denny. Brad Childress was going to change that in a driving rainstorm. They had them practice outside. And here's the best part. The Vikings then proceeded. That was the first of 12 consecutive days of full padded practices in the summer heat in Mankato.
Amazing.
12.
It's aggressive. Yeah, I remember some of those early Childress teams. They all kind of blend together, but I mean, those guys were getting after it at practice. Full pads. I mean, it was like you're watching a live football game. I think they had some level of tackling in some of those too.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Man. Yeah, those guys, they would have just like, grass and mud stains all over when they wore the whites out there with the full pads.
Yeah, I remember, if I am correct on this, Antoine Winfield was absolutely taken aback. He's like, this is the hardest training camp I've ever been through. This is unbelievable.
As it should have. It hardened those guys for a run to the NFC Championship game just a few years later.
I think the quarterback helped in that one too, though.
No, I think the hard practices in 2006 laid the groundwork and the foundation.
Can you imagine that, though? 12 consecutive days full pads.
That's aggressive.
12.
At no point in your football career would you ever have full pads on. Maybe in like 8th grade or something when you don't have like shorts and shells, just so you put your pads on every day.
Exactly.
So, all right, it's halftime here of Judd's pecking order, and
Yes,
I'm going to
sir.
need you to go grab your dog Stella for a second.
She's right here. Stella, come here.
Okay.
Oh,
Because
God.
we have a new partner here on Mackie and Judd. Okay, I want Stella to look at the screen here, okay? Because on the screen for the YouTube audience, this is a very happy Maya Mackie.
That's Maya Mackie.
This is the 3-year-old Maya Mackie.
Oh, look at how excited.
Look how excited she is, okay?
excited.
If you want your dog, and Stella, I'm talking to you, to be as excited, look at the slow motion for the podcast audience. This is my 17-pound, 3-year-old Chihuahua Terrier mix, literally smiling ear to ear, jumping up and down, excited for her Nutrisource chicken and rice food. Nutrisource is all about digestion and gut health for your favorite little 4-legged critter. Okay,
Listen to
Stella?
this. Listen to
So,
this.
with their Good for Life system, gets your dog the nutrients that he or she needs for those Tootsie Roll poops. Okay? We want consistency.
Those are the healthy ones.
Consistency in time and in substance.
Yep.
And I want this to be the beginning for Judd and Stella on a new journey to digestive and gut health, to consistency, so that all dogs can be like Maya Mackie with their Nutrisource food. Chicken and rice is the preferable blend in our place. Go to NutrisourcePetFoods.com, Stella. Stella, are you writing this down?
She's got it.
Okay.
Her phone. She's
NutrisourcePetFoods.com
got her phone out.
to find a
Palm Pilot.
retailer near you.
Look at that. Look at that.
Good job.
Who's a good
Who's a good girl, Stella?
Judd and Dawn have a food plan, Stella, and now so do you. Everybody in the Zolgad house is going to be healthier.
So exciting.
Hi,
You're all going to
guys.
be pooping on a schedule. It's going to be great.
Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks for that.
All 3 of us are going to go outside
That's-
and
that-
hunker down in the grass.
Oh,
and
no.
some Tootsie
Look
Rolls.
Look at how excited she is. New food. New food is coming. Aren't you excited?
So we're excited to spread the word about Nutrisource. By the way, it's a 3rd-generation family-owned company operating out of Perham, Minnesota, but you can find their foods in all 50 states and even internationally. Again, NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a retailer near you. All right, bye, Stella. We got to get to the rest of our pecking order here.
I got to
Okay.
do my... I know. It's back to sports. I know. She's like, that's my endorsement. Everyone get away from my endorsement.
She's an influencer now. All right, number 5.
Yes, she is.
Judd's most memorable training camp moments.
All right, number 5 on my list, Dante Culpepper. I think most folks forget about this one. Staging a one-day holdout in 2005. On the same day, it was a Saturday in training camp in 2005. And Culpepper and Michael Bennett weren't there. And so, like, we're there, and we're like, where are they? Oh, they just had a day off. You know, Ticey, they just had a day off. We gave them a day off or something like that. It turned out, now, I still have no clue where Bennett went. But Culpepper, who had gotten that huge, I think it was like 10-year, $100 million contract that was worth like $12, Culpepper staged a one-day walkout. I think it might have been the next day or 2 days after, signed some form of rework deal. But that was, in retrospect now, without knowing it, that was sort of the beginning of the end, because then at the start of 05, Dante struggled badly, didn't play well, began to pick it up a bit, I think, and then, of course, the whole boat thing took place. They went to Carolina. His knee was essentially destroyed. But that one day when Culpepper did not show up sort of signaled his not being happy with the franchise, and sort of started a chain reaction of things that took him from a 2004, where I think without Peyton, he very well might have won the MVP, and 2005 was just an absolute disaster.
Yeah, he finished second in AP Offensive Player of the Year in 2004. If somebody would have told you right after that season ended, okay, he's a 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, basically second in line for MVP behind Peyton Manning, led the NFL with 4,717 passing yards, just a tick under 70% completions, 39 touchdowns through the air, a bunch more on the ground, and this is pretty much it.
Yeah, I would.
This is pretty much the end of his career. Like, he's going to play for 5 or 6 more years, but this is the end of his career as a starting quarterback, a viable starting quarterback at age 27.
I would have said you're absolutely nuts. And then, the thing is, Tice got fired. Childress came in, and Childress had every intention of Culpepper coming back. And that's when Culpepper wouldn't. I think he was still upset with his contract. I think he was continually trying to get more term or certainly more cash.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with Brad going through because we essentially asked, where is he? What's he doing? And Brad's like, I can envision a strip mall and a Chinese restaurant. He was basically at like a fitness place trying to rehab this disastrous knee problem. So that was it. But yeah, no, I would have said you're crazy. Dante Culpepper is going to play for a long time. So
yeah.
All right, number 4. It's sort of the encapsulation of Adrian Peterson in a nutshell. No pun intended here. Adrian Peterson having what was at the time a surprise allergic reaction to shellfish in 2012.
Oh, yeah.
He had to call Sugarman, who had to do an emergency, like this was a crisis, emergency EpiPen injection. They took him to the hospital, and a few years or a year after that, Peterson basically said, you know what? I like seafood so much, I'm going to take an EpiPen with me and continue to eat it.
I love it. This is me with spicy foods.
But I mean, is that not a Peterson,
Yeah.
you know, you almost died. What's up? Oh, man, I'm still eating it.
As someone who has had to shoot an EpiPen into his leg before for allergic reactions, it is a pretty terrifying experience. I've had to do that before. I had an allergic reaction in 2012. I had like 2 of them, and we still haven't really solved what it is, which is a potential issue because every time it happens, it gets worse and worse. And it got so bad when I shoved the EpiPen in, I still had to go into urgent care, and then I had to get, sorry to get graphic here, a shot of Benadryl in my butt cheek, and my ass muscle was sore for 3 weeks. Because there's no meat on this keister right here. So my butt was super sore, but I will say I got the best sleep of my life. I slept 17 consecutive hours from an EpiPen and a shot of Benadryl in my behind. It was incredible.
Where do you get, in an emergency situation, where are EpiPens available?
That is a good question. I'm guessing like trainers and stuff definitely have them on stock.
Oh, yeah.
And you can buy a few because obviously you're only going to use them for emergency uses, and I think they're usually good for like 5 to 6 years. So it's not like you have to re-up it every few months or once a year. They're usually good for multiple years.
Is there a type of food that you guys love so much? If someone said, "Listen, if you have any of this food ever again, it's going to trigger an emergency reaction that you'll need. But if you have an EpiPen and urgent care nearby, it's going to be okay."
No.
That you would plow through anyways.
0 chance. No.
I probably would risk it. I love seafood too, and I love wings, and I love food. If it's a food that I love a lot, I'm probably gonna risk it. I don't care.
I think it's pizza for me, man. I love pizza.
Yeah.
But if you were told you're gonna have to inject yourself,
Worth it.
No problem.
Wow.
Worth
I've
it.
done far worse. I've done far worse to this body.
Go to Chicago.
Well,
I know
so
you
have
guys.
I, but I
You
feel
guys
like I
don't
can
love deep
control
dish
it.
on the show, but go to Geno's
No.
East. It's going to take an hour and a half for them to cook it. So you put the order in, go find an EpiPen, come back, eat the pizza, jam
Deep
it in your
dish,
leg.
Overrated. I love thin
Very
crust.
overrated.
I love pizza.
We've
Deep
thought about
dish,
this. That's okay.
completely overrated.
Yeah, it's not pizza.
Including the best. It's not where it comes from. It's it's yuck. No.
Well, you guys are wrong. Let's get to number 3
All
here
right,
on
number
your
3 on my list. Number 3 on my list. All right. So we all know that Favre never officially showed up in Mankato, but there are 4 quick things that come to mind when it comes to Brett Favre in training camp. I think a few of which Phil will also recall because he probably covered as well. The pursuit of Favre that began in Mankato in 2008 that led to the Vikings not being charged with tampering with the then Packer quarterback, despite the fact they definitely tampered. The practice in 2009 towards the end of training camp in Mankato that triggered the Vikings going into a panic because Sage and Tavares looked so bad, and that is what I believe precipitated we have to get him back. 3, the stifling hot Phil and Pelissero were there as well. 2010 practice in which Childress, Spielman, Brzezinski, and the Wilfs never paid attention to the field at all because they were game planning how on earth to get Brett back.
Yeah.
And then 4, the rumor that Favre was driving around Mankato in a black pickup in 2010, and some guy who was clearly trying to pose as Favre walking into places and causing, I believe, at least one Mankato TV station to actually pursue him.
Yes, one of the TV stations actually reported that Brett Favre was in Mankato. I'm fairly certain.
I think you're right.
Yeah, there's just a whole... And by the way, all of these stories told, if you want, we've got 3 or 4 different episodes on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. If you go down to the rewind section, we lay all these stories out. Everything 2009, 2010 Brett Favre in great detail. Sage Rosenfels is part of some of those, so definitely worth a deep dive. Yes, love it.
Number 2, this does not count as a Mankato one. It's right after camp had broken, but I have to at least broach it, and that is, Declan, I apologize, Teddy Bridgewater's knee exploding in what still amounted to a preseason practice after the first game that was ever played by the Vikings in US Bank Stadium, and Teddy had played so well against the Chargers, and we all thought, man, this is going to be a fun year. Still, one of the most inexplicable things of all time was the fact that the guy dropped back to pass and his leg just basically went, and it was a disaster. And then the last one, number 1 on my list. What could top that? Only Corin Robinson leading police on a 15-mile chase in which the St. Peter cops clocked his 2003 BMW going at 104 miles per hour in August 2006, and then the next day going to the St. Peter courthouse to cover Corin being brought in, I recall, in shackles and an orange jumpsuit, is number 1 on my list. It was a day I won't soon forget.
Amazing.
So
yeah. This is, in fairness to Corin, this is before Uber, so little tougher.
And he was drunk too. But besides that, and the year before, everyone talked about, oh man, sobriety. He's finally at peace. They signed him to like a 3-year contract, and it all came apart as he raced back to the dormitory. And I believe he was finally apprehended, if I'm not mistaken, essentially going up the hill to Gage Center.
So he almost made it.
Yeah. Well, he did really make it. It's just that he couldn't get out of the car.
At that point, man.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. He should not have been driving. And even though Uber didn't exist, I'm sure the Vikings had a couple connections. They could probably find you a driver.
He was going to be late.
Even from Minneapolis to...
He was going to be late. It would have had to be quick. And I believe that the speeds from the cops, they said, reached 120. On 169.
But it kind of goes from it kind of goes down to 30 and 40 there real quick, can catch you off guard.
That's a good point.
This is when you're going 130. It doesn't really matter.
Touche, Phil, you're right. Anyway.
It is. All right, Judd's 10 most memorable training camp moments for the Vikings here a week before Vikings training camp. We will continue our Vikings training camp preview series over on Purple Daily today. Is the offensive line really fixed? Let's do a dive into what the Vikings have as of right now going into training camp. And tomorrow, write that down, predictions and an accountability session. Mackie and Judd.